Welcome to Spark It Up Sports, your one-stop shop for all things football. We got our buddy Chris Poos with us today, all the way from Boston. How you doing today?
Great to be here, Steve. It's an exciting time to talk sports. Let's do it, buddy.
Let's do it. So this is going to be our free agency podcast. Everybody knows the free agency negotiations start at 12 o'clock Monday Eastern time. No one can sign yet until the new league year, which is Wednesday, noon Eastern, is when that begins. So that's when they'll be signing their contract. There are a bunch of good free agents out there in all different positions, and there are many teams with a ton of cap space. Some of them over 100 million, and like the Bears had 90. They made some trades. They're down to 60, so they still got some room to work. What are your feelings on this upcoming free agent session that's going to be going down?
There's a lot of teams with a lot of needs. There's a ton of cap space out there. I'm looking right now.
Yeah.
Available, 118 million. New
So
England.
much.
It's insane. There's, like I said, there's a lot of teams with needs. There's a lot of interesting talent out there. We're counting down the days to the draft, so teams are likely, plotting how can we get better via free agency. Will that fix the needs prior to the draft? It's an exciting time because, like you said, there's nothing but potential for every team in the league right now.
Yeah, me and Johnny were talking the other day, and I love the fucking offseason. The regular season was terrible. What a terrible time. Now we're in the off season, and there's positivity everywhere. Unless
Super
you're like
Bowl
a
or
Jets
bust,
fan,
baby.
Giants. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's dive into these different positions. We're going to start with the quarterback position. The top free agent for quarterbacks for me is Sam Darnold. Currently with he's going to be with nobody, but his last season with the Minnesota Vikings, 14 wins, but the end of that season did not go well. He got destroyed by the Lions, destroyed by the Lions last game, and then in the playoffs, he got worked by the Eagles, but their offensive line was terrible. So I don't know if you put that all on Sam Darnold, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of offers he gets this year and if he stays in Minnesota or ends up somewhere else.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams with need for quarterbacks. A lot of older athletes who disappointing in their last stop. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson's washed, but he continues to want to play the game that he loves. And I'm looking at the bottom of the list here. We even got Joe Flacco, 40 years old, experience, valuable to a young team. A team with a young quarterback.
That's what I'm saying.
So
yeah.
Yep.
I think another interesting one for me is Justin Fields becoming a free agent because he has a winning record everywhere he goes. With the Bears, he won. In Pittsburgh, he was winning but got benched. So he knows how to win. I don't know how he does it, too, because he's not that good of a quarterback, it looks like.
Flashes. I don't even know who to compare him to.
Right?
Flashes of I'm not even going to compare him to anybody else. He's one of a kind. He's Justin Fields. I think somebody like Justin Fields, he really needs to find the right fit with a good quarterback and a good OC. Just earlier today,
definitely.
I was listening to some sports talk earlier today. They were talking, Bo Nix. Bo Nix was Sean Payton's number 2 ranked quarterback behind Jaden Daniels, believe it or not. And he was a perfect man for the system.
Oh, yeah.
Payton
perfect.
So if Fields can find something like that, somebody to work with him, I'm not quite sure what type of offense Fields would thrive in. Like you said, he can't really throw the ball all that well, but get him out of the pocket, he can make some magic happen. Like you said, just a very exciting time right now.
Right. All right. And then one of the more interesting quarterbacks, but he's not a free agent right now, is Kirk Cousins because he's going to get released. He's going to be like Russell Wilson last year, and he's only going to require $1 million in cap space from a team because the Falcons are going to have to pay his salary. So that's going to be really interesting to see where he ends up. I think a great fit for him and the team would be the Cleveland Browns because they have Deshaun Watson with an injury still, and he's garbage, and they have to pay him all that money. And if you have him coming in for $1 million, like that would be a great replacement for him, I think.
Right. When you say the name Kirk Cousin, I don't necessarily have a light bulb moment, but when you
No,
say it's going to cost $1 million to the cap, makes it a hell of a lot more attractive.
yeah, and he's 1 year removed from that. What's up, dog? And he's 1 year removed from that ACL injury, so he should be moving better in that pocket, I would think. All right, that's about it for the quarterback class for me. There's a bunch of older, washed up, like backups, serviceable backups in there. Jimmy Garoppolo, Jacoby Brissett, Russell Wilson, who, like you said, is washed. Like, I don't think he's going to go for much money. And I don't think he's going to go somewhere he's not starting, so he might be one of the last guys to get picked up, I think. Let's move on to
He might be
running backs.
staged.
All right, let's move on to
No.
these running backs. For me, the top one in this area is Najee Harris for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is like another light group, though, when it comes to free agency. Not a lot of big names out there. And the draft is really running back heavy, so that's not going to help these free agents making money because you're going to be able to get a very good running back second, third round this year. So, J.K.
With
Dobbins
fresh
on.
legs.
Yeah.
Fresh legs, less miles on the tires, and running back tenure is not what it used to be. We did see Saquon get that nice bump to become the highest paid running back, well deserved.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But I wouldn't.
He's
I
a
would-
once
I
in a
wouldn't say
lifetime
that.
talent, though. That's like no one else is getting that, though. Not that much.
Right, you're not going to see anybody set the market standard, set the market rate when it comes to running back position.
Yeah.
Because next year in the draft somebody will be there.
Right. All right. After that, we
let's
got
see.
the. What's up?
Well, no, I was just going to go to the next one on the list. Aaron Jones. I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan. Loved him with Green Bay. Love seeing him walking in with the huge Mexican hats. Absolutely love it. Shout out Johnny.
Got the biggest forehead I've ever seen in my life.
But he's a versatile runner.
He
He's
can catch out of the
unreal, and
backfield. Dog, I'm a Bears
fantastic.
fan.
I'm a huge
Do
fan.
you know how many times I've seen him score a touchdown, either with the Packers or the Vikings every year? He's so good. I hate him.
Yeah, how many times actually? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking. I know he's good, dude. I see it every year. Get him out of the division at least. That would be great.
So if you're looking at the list of running backs right now, the top five, Najee, Aaron Jones, bringing in the tail here, Raheem Mostert, Jamal Williams. I'm actually a big fan of Jamal, and Nick Chubb. Everybody's over the age of 27. Goes right back to our original point. A lot of
Go to
miles
the
on
draft.
tires.
It's a heavy running back.
Go to the draft. Go to the draft. Every team these days is running with 2, 3, 4 running backs sometimes, depending on the systems.
Even like Saquon was getting breathers here and there. He did take a pretty heavy load, but you got to have multiple running backs in this age of the NFL. Take a pretty heavy load. All right, let's move on to receivers. On the top of the list, I have is Devontae Adams. He is the best receiver, I think. The other guys are coming off injuries, like Chris Godwin snapped his leg in half, Stephon Diggs, ACL. And Amari Cooper kind of had a down year. Devontae Adams will be interesting how much money he goes for. He got released. He was owed like $35 million, so they got rid of him. He's got to be the top receiver right now out there, though, as far as free agents go.
Mm-hmm. And even though, given the age, I think, what would we say, 30?
He's 32.
32. A team's going to have to overpay. There's been a lot of talk. A lot of talk here in New England about, who they're looking. They should have their name in, their hand in every hat when it comes to looking for a number one wide receiver. Devontae Adams, despite the age, he's definitely that guy. I know that if you're a fan of catch radius numbers, he's gone down drastically over the past few years, but he can run a route.
Yeah.
This is the age where a lot of receivers aren't necessarily able to break away. He's unreal when you get the ball in his pocket, and
Yeah, you get him a
so
good
very
quarterback,
excited to
which
see where.
that was the issue in Vegas is he didn't have a quarterback. But you give him like a decent one, and he's out there. He's getting open. It's just whether or not you can get him the ball.
And I think at this point in time, as much as so, I know that Devontae he loved his time in Las Vegas off the field. Big golfer, loved the community, things like that.
Oh, for
I would
gambler.
love to see him come. I would love to see him come back to the desert, but I think that, many of these older receivers, these older backs, they want to play for a contender right now. So somebody's going to pay.
They're all ring
We'll see what
chasing. They want a
happens.
ring at this point. They've been there, done that. And now it's time they want a
Yeah.
ring. So look for them to look for a good team to
And
get
if we
them.
look at the list, looking at the list here of our top five receivers, is Godwin the only one who actually has a ring?
I think so. Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
Keenan Allen's on that list. I
for
think
sure.
he's a
Keenan.
bum though, dude.
Yeah, he's a slug. He's an absolute slug.
I don't think he's a good locker room guy
Did
either. Like I think him getting out of
no
Chicago
you?
is the best thing that can happen for that wide receiver group.
Hmm. I agree.
Yeah, definitely. All right, after the receivers, moving on to tight end. The only one I got is Mike Gesicki out of Cleveland or out of Cincinnati, 32 years old. He also played with Joe Burrow, and he has a tendency to make receivers and tight ends look good. So that's one thing to consider. But other than him, there aren't really any tight ends on this list for me.
No, Zach Ertz had a comeback year of a lifetime, still catching balls, but he's 34. He's washed.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. See ya. And this is another deep tight end class. So along with the running back class, go out there and get yourself a young tight end. There's probably 5 or 6 tight ends out there
Mhm.
that I think will be your like a starter eventually in a couple of years in the NFL.
All I can think about right now is Tyler Warren, Penn State. Just
Oh,
an
he's gonna be so
absolute
good.
game changer.
He's so tall,
Whoever
so
he was
athletic.
he can catch the ball anywhere. Absolutely remarkable talent. So excited to see where he goes. Like I said, I'm just counting down the days to the draft, but let's see the
Oh yeah,
shakeup in free
definitely.
agency. Should be something.
Well, that's the thing. For me, as a Bears fan, free agency hadn't even hit. We'd had 0 offensive linemen, and then within 24 hours, we got 2 starting guards. So it's like, within this next week, so much is going to change in the NFL. Like, all these different pieces are going to be moving, and then you're going to be able to hone in on exactly what you're going to need from the draft, like you said.
Right, yeah. So it's day in and day out. I'm looking at the latest mock draft.
Oh,
It
yeah.
really means nothing
Yeah.
until we see the shakeup that's about to happen.
And I think it comes down to, like, where are these quarterbacks going to go? Because, like, Rodgers isn't going to want to go somewhere where they draft a quarterback, like, in the first round or something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how the quarterbacks play out for me. And I think then the pieces will start following behind them.
For sure, because how tough is it for a receiver? Just your DK Metcalfs of the world, who not available in free agency, but requested the trade last week. He
Yeah.
could chase the bag all he wants, but you got to go to who's going to get him the ball, and for a receiver to develop that repertoire with a quarterback that he trusts, and depending that's a huge reflection on length of contract, things like that. So
Right.
it really, it's really cool.
Definitely. All right, let's move on to the interior offensive lineman. Number one on this list is Ronnie Stanley from the Baltimore Ravens. He's a great interior offensive lineman, and I am surprised that the Ravens aren't going to be bringing him back. They haven't like re-signed him, so usually at this point, if they're not re-signing you or haven't re-signed you already, there's a reason they're letting you go. There's something they see that they don't like or whatever. The contract's too big. So, but in free agency, I mean, maybe the Kansas City Chiefs because they're going to need some help now that they got rid of Tooney and they franchise tag Trey Smith. So you maybe bring him in there to protect Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, the Chiefs are going to do something.
Yeah, they got to make a move. They got to protect him. What happened in that Super Bowl was embarrassing. At the same time, the Eagles' defensive line was insane, and they embarrassed everybody in the playoffs with that D line.
I'm excited to see where he goes. Mekhi Becton, absolute monster. 26 years old. Excuse me. Yeah, 26 years old. Phenomenal in the run game.
Yeah, he's a
You
smash
know,
mouth football player out there. He did get moved from tackle his previous stint with who was he with? The Jets? The Jets, he was a tackle. They moved him into guard this year with the Eagles, and he is part of the reason they ran the hell out of the ball because he's a road grader up there, like you said, in the run game. So I don't know where he's going to
and
end up,
this
but
is
I do imagine he's going to be a guard for sure wherever he ends up.
this has been such an interesting year with all the talk about arm length and things like that
Oh
on the
my
combine.
gosh, Will
I've
Campbell, them
never been
short old, he's like T-Rexing, dude.
I've never paid so much attention to the interior line. There's never been so much
Right?
discussion for these needy teams with young quarterbacks who looking to protect the backside. And we watched Tooney all year. Like you said, Tooney, reliable guard, moved outside, played out of position with the
Oh yeah,
Chiefs.
then he got Ward.
Had a terrible
Yeah,
time.
right.
But you move somebody like that back inside
He's gonna be fine.
with a couple young,
I saw a
hundred
stat the
percent.
last 2 years. He had the second highest pass rush win rate for offensive guards. So, like, you give me that, considering what we had the last 2 years in Chicago with offensive line. I love that. Coming back to this free agent list for the offensive line, Tevin Jenkins is towards the top of the list. He was with the Chicago Bears, but with the moves we made, we are not bringing him back. He was a pretty serviceable guard for us, and he got better as the year went on. It'll be interesting to see how he does with a different team because at guard on a good team, I think he can be a good player, and he's very good in the run game. So that's a guy to keep an eye on.
On top of that, Cam Robinson, big fan of Cam Robinson. 29 years old. He was with the Vikings most recently, formerly with the Jags.
No, he was with the Jags most
I think
recently.
there's potential there. He was with the Jags most recently, excuse me. But yeah, he came out of Alabama,
Yeah.
335, 6'6".
He's been
There's something
franchise
there.
tagged twice by the Jaguars. So he's made a lot of money the last 2 years. And there are always teams that need tackles, especially like I feel like it's harder and harder to find good linemen in the NFL. I think with all this 7-on-7 bullshit going on, you just don't have linemen. Everybody wants to be a receiver, tight end, running back, and no one's growing up wanting to be a lineman. They just can't find them like they used to.
Yeah.
All right. Where are we at? Let's move on to the edge rushers. The best one in this area is Josh Sweat. Everybody remember him in the Super Bowl. He was number 19 for the Eagles. Absolutely dominant out there. I do think because Jalen Carter got triple, double teamed every play, opened some things up. I don't know how well Sweat's going to be playing with another team if he doesn't have those other pieces or like next to him like he did this year. So that's an interesting one for me. But he is going to get paid because those D ends get paid.
No doubt about it. Well deserved. Yeah, Josh Sweat, like you said, hard to forget. I still close my eyes when we think about this Super Bowl, and I just can't believe the absolute ass beating that
Ass
Philadelphia laid.
beating, dude.
They demonstrated exactly how you should build a team from the inside
Yep.
out and focus on the D line. So yeah, he's Sweat's huge. Let's see.
Chase Young is on this list.
That's about all.
That's a guy for me that is interesting coming out as a free agent. He signed a 1-year deal with New Orleans last year. First overall pick with Washington. If you remember back in the day, did tear his ACL his second season. He got defensive rookie of the year. and then tore his ACL second season. Hasn't really been the same. I don't think he has the speed to be a great pass rusher, but he's definitely serviceable in the run game, and he's a good. He's kind of reminds me of Jadeveon Clowney at this point in his career. Going to be a good player, but not going to be the all-star, all-pro that everybody thought he would be after his first year. So I'm interested to see where he ends up. We also have Khalil Mack on this list, and Joey Bosa is now a free agent. So the Chargers are losing both of their defensive ends. Chargers have no problem getting rid of their star players like we saw last year under Harbaugh. Once they get a little older, he's starting to flip that roster again, go younger. I could see Khalil Mack maybe ending up back in Chicago, word on the street. If he comes to Chicago, maybe a third down passing pass rushers, and that's it. He's older now, so I don't expect as much out of him anymore.
And on the note of Bosa, I believe he actually came out and said the end is he's closer to the end.
Yeah, he knows. I mean,
He's acknowledging the fact that he's acknowledging that is it's not going to help him get the bag. But like you said, he can be insert him on passing downs. Try to get to the quarterback. Team him up with a couple other good edge
right.
rushers, and we'll see
I
what
was
happens.
thinking.
Love to see him. Love to see him.
Go. Love to what?
Take it away.
I was thinking for
Take it
Bosa,
away.
just like you said, with those injuries and that, like he's gonna be just a pass down rusher to keep him healthy with the injuries the last 3 seasons. My dream scenario for him would to see him end up with the San Francisco 49ers playing alongside his brother Nick Bosa. Could you imagine those two having a party at the quarterback on a 3rd and long? Like the other teams wouldn't stand a fucking chance.
Yeah, that would be unreal to see. And like you said, if you just strictly insert, limit the downs, what keep
Keep
them
him fresh. Yeah.
That's devastating. Keep him fresh. That's devastating to an offensive line that's working to get down the field. Fresh legs coming at you, relentless pressure. Yeah, love to see him love to see him up in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we saw with Team USA and the Tkachuk brothers, them playing together. Just seeing brothers play on the same team at the highest level of athletics, whether the NHL, NFL, NBA, is fucking great. Let's make this happen. Get the Bosa boys together and have a sack party, dude. Let's go.
Yeah. I think, hashtag Bosa boys.
Hashtag Bosa boys.
Sure.
Get that shit going. All right, let's move on to defensive tackles. Biggest one out of this one is Milton Williams. He was also with the Philadelphia Eagles. They are losing a bunch of pieces after that Super Bowl run. We'll see how Howie Roseman is able to rebuild that roster because he's been able to do it once already after a Super Bowl run. So definitely will be interesting to see where Milton Williams ends up, though, because everybody needs a good defensive tackle. There aren't that many in the league. So, I mean, I would take him as a Chicago Bear for sure. Who else? Calais Campbell, the guy out of Miami. He's a free agent. He's been in the league forever. He turns 39. He's been so consistent for so long. If you remember the video, Tyreek Hill getting arrested, he was right there trying to help my man out. He's Walter Payton Man of the Year, too, so that's something to note. But any team he's going to be on, he's going to be a great leader in the locker room. I don't know how well he's going to perform on the field stat-wise, but great locker room guy. Good guy to have around.
Great locker room guy, 39 years old. He played 17 games last year.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like
35 sold,
man.
35 tackles. I'm looking here. Calais Campbell, also known as the Mayor of Saxonville. Hell of a nickname. But yeah, proven player, locker room guy. Who doesn't need it? Find a number that works for you. Make it happen.
All right, after the defensive lineman, we're going to move on to linebackers. The number one on this list was Zach Bond, but the Eagles did re-sign him, so he's no longer on this list. We got Dre Greenlaw on this list, but he's coming off that. He had the Achilles and then the calf after he came back for 2 games. All these older guys with these injuries, they scare me. He is a great player, but another thing to remember about him
Mm.
is he did play next to Wagner. Fuck, he played next to Fred Warner his last couple of years, and Fred Warner is so good that no matter who plays next to him's gonna look good. So he's like an eraser when it comes to the linebacker position.
Line line me up next to Fred
Yeah,
Warner. I'll find my way in the
you're
box
good.
score.
Yeah,
Believe it.
just everybody's fine next to Fred Warner. One person to note on this list is Robert Spillane, Bobby Spillane. He is 29, former Las Vegas Raider. He is former Western Michigan Broncos. Shout out Maction. Shout out Broncos. What are your thoughts on Robert Spillane and losing him? Because I felt like he was a backbone of that defense.
He really is. You have some history with Bobby from Western Michigan. The way he flies around the field in Vegas, he was the heartbeat. He was the main artery. He was the life and blood of that D outside of Max Crosby. Vegas has been dealing with defensive back issues for as long as I can
Right.
possibly remember. They can't stop the deep. They can't stop the deep ball. They can't score any points. But we do have the D line and the linebacker core from time to time dialed in. But Bobby Spillane, like you said, hate to see him go.
Yeah, definitely. He'll be interesting to see where he ends up. I felt like he was always in the right position, always there to make plays. Bunch of turnovers too, so great locker room guy. I do feel like though with
Big,
AP
big,
gone and all
big time.
those things switching up, that it might be time to move on from him though and get a fresh linebacker in there.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm super excited to see first and foremost, to see Pete Carroll on stage next to Max Crosby earlier this week when he signed the
Yeah, let's
extension.
talk about that
Just,
extension real quick.
took my breath.
Let's talk about that. How do you feel about that? What are the stipulations in this contract? And what's the feelings about around Vegas about signing the highest non-quarterback contract in NFL history?
On that note, I'll just next year somebody else will be the highest
It ain't even going to be
non-quarterback.
next year,
It's
dude.
the nature of nature of the league
It's
these
going to be
days.
within the next month. There's going to be with all these free agents and stuff. It's going to be
It could be in the next
right.
could be this week. Yeah, you're right. Yep. 3-year, 106.5 million. Average salary 35.5. 62 big ones guaranteed at signing. Keeping him in the desert, keeping him in Vegas. He wants to be a Raider for life. Now we just need to build something around him. We need to deliver.
Right.
Because you can't lose Max. You can't lose 10 games a year and expect he'll cover up the tattoo if he needs to.
Right? That's what I was thinking. Honestly, I think the Raiders are definitely in a win now mode, or they would have traded him for sure for one or two first round picks. Who knows what they would have got? Would have been an unbelievable haul for him. But keeping him around, giving him that contract, Pete Carroll in there, who knows how long he's going to coach. Looks like the Raiders are trying to win. They're going to try and win now. I love that contract for him. He's the heart and soul of the Raiders. He is literally unblockable. But when you watch him, he goes down the line. Tackle beat him, guard beat him, center beat him, other guard beat him, tackle beat him, can beat all fucking five, line up against all five guys. And he did have some injuries last year. Not the same player when he's injured, but when he's not injured, top defensive end in the league, or top three for sure. All right, let's get off his nuts for a while.
Nobody goes down. Yeah.
All right, we're back to the cornerback position on this free agent list. The top one is Carlton Davis. He is a great man-to-man cover corner, and cornerbacks are always hard to find and keep in this league. After that is Charvarius Ward, who played with the San Francisco 49ers. The story about him is his daughter actually passed away in San Fran, so he was saying he has like PTSD every time he goes to California and San Francisco, so look for him to go somewhere else, and I think he's going to be way better once he gets to a different location than San Fran. I mean, that's tough to do, and every time you go to California, you had to deal with that, so who else we got on there? Byron Murphy, age 27. He could be a great free agent signing. He was with Minnesota last year, and you saw how well their defense played. But for me, as far as free agent go, the
And
Chicago
then
Bears are pretty much their secondary is good to go. I don't think we need to look for anybody right now in free agency for the Bears, anyways.
yeah, also on the list, former Vegas Raider Trevon Moehrig, TC came out of TCU, highly touted this past year. Played all 17 games, 2 interceptions. But like you said, part of a D core that was not trusted. Very little faith in these guys. So like you said, he's just a safety out there.
Right.
Somebody will pick him up, but the list is short.
All right, well, we've gone through every position, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. It's going to be a whirlwind once they can start signing. When they start negotiating, do they come out with terms before they actually sign the deal? I don't remember last year. So, are we going to get terms starting Monday at 1 o'clock, and then they wait to sign Wednesday, or how's that work? Because they can negotiate, so I feel like they can finalize the deal. They just can't sign.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, they're all doing that shit right now anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You just can't officially do it.
Yeah, behind closed doors.
All right, it was a big day in the NHL today. It was the trade deadline. What were the top 3 biggest trades for you? The player, where they were, and where they went.
A lot of winners, a lot of losers on trade deadline day, and it's hard to tell because it really depends where your franchise is and what you're looking to do. Biggest two biggest names.
It's pretty cool seeing the NFL do it and have their deadline, and then the NHL do it, have their deadline, because all these professional sports have their deadline, and for 24 hours, whenever that deadline is, we're zoned in on that sport. NFL, this was NHL today. When the baseball deadline comes in, the deadline is a great period for these sports and all these pro sports.
Then and you, me, and Johnny, we've been, we have the text chain going late last night during the games. Who's getting scratched? It only heated up more this morning. As we got closer to the deadline, people thought moves weren't going to be made. As the clock struck 3, a lot of movement.
Then you see it.
Marchand goes from Boston to Florida. The Rat joins the Rats. Unreal. He likely won't be back until just right around playoff time. Same thing with Matthew Tkachuk, but that's huge.
You get those two on the ice for the playoffs.
Going to be really tough to beat in the playoffs.
Talk about not wanting to play someone.
I talked to my cousin. I talked to my cousin earlier today. Proud Bruins season ticket holder, and I told him, Florida quickly became the most likable, unlikable team out there. It really is. Other big move. Rantanen goes from Carolina to Dallas, secures a huge bag.
That's big for Dallas, right? That's going to help their playoff run.
That's big for Dallas. It's big for Carolina as well, because Carolina found themselves in this horrible position after they just traded for him earlier this year. They basically realized he's not going to re-sign in Carolina, and if you did not move him today, big problems. So I'm not entirely sure what they got back, off the top of my head, but I know that's huge for Dallas. Carolina's got to get something, make them better long term. But huge, 8 years, 12 AAV.
Yeah, huge contract.
He played for huge contract, well deserved. He was leading Carolina, even though he came from Colorado, where they're just a point machine. But he was leading Carolina in points this year. I think Sebastian Aho was a few points behind. But that's big. And then the third deal that I was most intrigued by was Dylan Cousins going from Buffalo to Ottawa. They got Josh Norris back, another, offense for offense. There was a few other pieces there as well, but I think Norris, maybe puts a little better focus on his
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
defensive
Yeah.
side of the ice. Dylan Cousins is a great offensive talent, but the Sabres. You watch them last night. They're up 5-3 on Tampa Bay in the second. End up losing
So
the
many
game
goals. Holy
6-5.
shit.
A lot of great pieces. Just what a
Yeah.
blast. That's our type
The
of hockey.
only free agent signing that I saw, and the only reason I saw it was because Johnny texted it, was Shea Weber to the Chicago Blackhawks. I'm not going to lie, since the Blackhawks have been so bad the last couple of years, I've not been on top of it like I have prior years. And like Shea Weber, to me, since I haven't been that involved in hockey, I still think he's like a G. But, I mean, how good is he anymore if he's getting traded to the Blackhawks?
Yeah, I did see the Hawks made a couple moves. They brought Peter Mrazek in this year to just take the
Beating.
absolute beating. And then at the trade deadline, you ship him out.
Yeah, it's a disaster in Chicago.
But, when it's all said, it's a disaster in Chicago. In closing, all I got to say is, why
Why
not
not
us?
us? Are you guys ready or what? You got Ryan Smith back?
Why not us? Let's go. So,
Riley.
yeah, Riley Smith, the original Misfit, comes back from New York. We're very happy to see him. He's a very nice guy, loved in the community. Going to add a little bit more depth, but I think where we stand right now, Cup contenders. Vegas has got to be there. Dallas, absolutely, and then Winnipeg's an absolute wagon.
Yeah, but no Canadian
And then,
team can win the cup.
like you
so
said,
that's
depending
all
on
I'm
how
worried
things.
about.
That's right. And we'll, how things are playing out right now in the East. The Atlantic Division is absolutely stacked. Whoever gets that 2-3 matchup, the
Yeah.
good team's gonna go home. So can't wait. Best
Hell
time of the
yeah.
year comes.
Fucking March Madness will be it's like 10 days away. That's right around the corner. I definitely think we try and get a March Madness show in once those brackets are out. Just see the matchups in that, but let's wrap this show
Absolutely.
up. Great talk about the free agency that's coming. I can't wait to see where these guys end up. See if the Bears do make any moves. There will be some more trades, I think. DK Metcalf wants to leave, so just look for a trade for him. But thanks for joining me. Great to have you. Until next time.
Steve, always a pleasure.
Hell yeah.
Until next time.